Hi friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome if you're new. We've got a lot of produce to process today. I kind of went a little bit crazy at Fred Meyer the last couple of days, grabbed a bunch of things that were on the produce discount aisle. I couldn't pass them up, so we're going to get them processed so that we don't end up losing them. Because you know, when you buy things off of the discount rack, they don't have a lot of shelf life left. So we need to get these done. So I have two things of red bell peppers. There's 4 in this one and 4 in this one. So I have 8 red bell peppers. I've got 3 orange bell peppers. And we are going to put most of these in the oven to do some roasted bell peppers. And so we're going to put these in there at a pretty high heat. I'm going to get my oven preheated to 400. And we're going to put these on a piece of foil and put them in the oven and let them roast. I am going to save probably 1 of the red bell peppers, maybe 2 of the red bell peppers, and add maybe 1 of the orange, because I'm going to try something. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it done today or not, but I want to try doing some pepper jelly. And so we're going to see how that turns out just for the fridge. I'm not going to can it. Just going to make a little bit of it. And so we're going to see how that works. And then I also got some, I believe these are Anaheims, I think. So I have 3 bags of those and a bag of red hot peppers. And so we are going to make something with those as well. I also got 2 things of apples. These right here are going to be going in our sourdough discard cinnamon rolls we're going to make today. These are going to go into a apple hand pie that we're going to make for the freezer. So I've got lots of little things that I need to get done today. Hopefully we can get them all done today. If not, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll finish what we didn't get done. So I need to hurry up and get these things started because I got a little later start today. As you guys, unless you guys haven't seen the other videos, I did a live on Saturday where I did a cherry limeade drink for spring, summer, whatever. And we had it Saturday night for dinner with the rest of the sheet pan Easter dinner that I did. And I managed to spill my cherry limeade all over the carpet. And so yesterday I went to the store. I forgot to get carpet cleaner. So I had to go back to the store this morning and get carpet cleaner and another thing that I forgot for my husband. So I'm getting a little bit later of a start this morning than I wanted to in the kitchen. So we're going to get as much done as we possibly can. The peppers are going to be super easy. The cinnamon rolls are going to be super easy. So we'll get those 2 things started and going and ready. And then we'll see if we have time to get to the pepper jelly. That I'm probably going to use the Anaheims and the red bell peppers, or the red hot peppers, 1 of the red bell peppers and 1 of the orange bell peppers, and we'll make a red pepper jelly. And the rest of these, I'm just going to roast these, take the skins off, finally dice them up, and we're going to save those and use those for all kinds of things over the next couple of months. We'll use them in Mexican recipes, all kinds of stuff, because they're going to have a little bit of heat to them. So I want to take advantage of this produce that they had super cheap. These bags at Fred Meyer are $1. So right here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $7 invested in 3 bags of peppers, of bell peppers, and 4 bags of hotter peppers. So let's get this stuff done, friends, because I need to get on with this so that I don't run out of time. So I'm just going to take my peppers. I'm going to leave them whole. I'm not going to cut them. I'm not going to take the seeds out or anything. I'm going to leave them whole just like this, put them on my sheet pan, and these are going to go straight into a 400-degree oven, and they're going to roast for probably a good 30, 35 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer. If you have a gas stove, you can do this same thing on your gas stove. Just put these on your flame or a grill, anything like that. Put those on there, grill them until they are nice and charred and really soft, and then wrap them in foil, put them in a Ziploc bag, whatever you've got, put them in something so that you can let them steam, and then you can peel off the skin. So I'm going to save, as I said, I'm going to save a couple of these red bell peppers out. I'm going to save 2 of them out. There's our oven hot. I've got, let's see what's going to give me, 4 or 5, it's going to give me 6 of the red bell peppers in the oven to roast for some roasted peppers. I love roasted peppers in pasta sauce. I love them in different types of salads, all kinds of things. So we're gonna do 2 of the orange bell peppers. We're gonna save one of these for our pepper jelly that we're going to do possibly later. So I'm gonna take one of these bell peppers and set this aside, put the other 2 in, or on this pan over here with the red ones so they can go in the oven and roast. And I'm not gonna put anything on them. You don't wanna oil them or anything like that, because if you put oil on them, they're just gonna steam and they're not gonna get that nice roasty color on the outside. And we really want them to be roasted. So here's our peppers going in the oven to roast. And then while I was at the store grabbing the carpet cleaner, I grabbed a bottle of olive oil because we're gonna pack these roasted bell peppers. Can't even say that this morning. Roasted bell peppers. We're gonna pack those in olive oil with some fresh garlic cloves, and we're gonna stash them in our fridge. They're gonna be fine for several months. Not gonna be a huge deal. So we're gonna put them in there and get those roasted. And let's get on with our. Like I said, I'm not gonna do anything with these right now because I'm gonna try to get to a pepper jelly at some point. I also have these that I'm gonna end up roasting for just putting into a Ziploc bag. But we need to get started on our cinnamon rolls first. These are a sourdough discard cinnamon roll. So let's get these done. All right, so I've got my 4 apples. I'm gonna peel these and I'm just gonna put these through my chopper and get those diced up really small so we can put those into our cinnamon rolls. And then we're gonna start on our dough. This is what's fun about a sourdough discard cinnamon roll. Most of them do not have to rise. They don't have to go through the multiple rising processes because you're using a sourdough that has a lot of leavening in it. So we're just gonna use this one. It's super easy. You can make the cinnamon rolls, roll them out right away, fill them, bake them, and they're done in no time. So I'm just gonna peel my apples really quick, right into my garbage can. And I'm gonna go ahead and peel all 4 of these. I don't know that I'm gonna need all 4 to fill the cinnamon rolls, but whatever I don't have, I will just add it to our pie filling that we're gonna make. We're gonna make some, as I said, some apple hand pies for the freezer. And if I don't use all the pie filling for a batch of hand pies, then I will freeze that pie filling in a Ziploc bag and stash it in my freezer, and I'll have it ready when next time I want to make hand pies or apple pie or anything like that. I'll have some apples already diced up in the freezer ready to go. All right, so I'm just going to cut these in half, and we'll take out the seeds, and then we'll just put them in the chopper and get them diced up. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get our apples in here, get them diced up. All right, there's our apples all chopped up and ready to go. Let's head over and do our dough. All right, so instead of cutting my butter into my flour, I'm gonna go ahead and just use my grater. This is my favorite way to get a really good texture on the butter when I'm doing any kind of baking for pie crusts, or for, if I'm not doing it in the food processor, then I wanna do my grater and really grate this butter. It kind of really helps get it mixed into your flour a little bit better, so that when you're baking your dough, you get that nice flaky crust. So we're just gonna grate this in here really quick. We're gonna give it a quick mix so that it can start getting the butter incorporated into the flour. And then we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. And then it literally is just a matter of rolling this dough out, putting our butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, and our apples in there. And these are going in the oven. All right, so we're gonna put in 1 tablespoon plus a teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, quarter of a teaspoon of salt, and we're using our Redmond's real salt. We need 1 cup of milk, and a half a cup of our discard. Get this out. And I love that we're using discard because, as we've talked about before, sourdough is so good for you. If you're going to eat bread, sourdough is the way to go, just because of the fermentation that goes on with sourdough. It's really good for gut health, really good for digestion, all of those kinds of things. All right, let's get this mixed in. So here is our dough. This looks beautiful. So we're gonna put down a little bit of flour because we need to knead this just a little bit, and then we need to get this rolled out. So I'm gonna spread this flour out so I have a good working surface to get my dough rolled out and not have it stick. It's not really sticky, but it's very cold because everything that went into this was cold. The discard was cold, the milk was cold. That's the difference with this, is like most cinnamon roll recipes, they call for warm milk, they call for warm water, they call for yeast, all the things. And with discard, you don't typically have to do that. So we're just gonna work this just a little bit. I just wanna get it so it's not quite as sticky, because I want to be able to roll this out on my board or my counter and be able to get it off the board. So we're just going to knead it just a little bit. I'm not going to knead it a whole bunch, but I definitely want to get it so it feels really nice. But this dough feels incredible. I've made a couple discard recipes, and they were fine. They weren't horrible, but hubby wasn't crazy about the texture of them. So I'm gonna try to make sure that these are nice and tender sour or cinnamon rolls using discard, because we want to find a really good, I would love to have a really good recipe that I can say, yes, this is my sourdough discard cinnamon roll recipe when I want to do cinnamon rolls and I want to use sourdough, that I know I have a go-to recipe. So we need to get this rolled out into a rectangle as even as we possibly can in a rectangle, so that when we roll, or we're going to fill these and roll them up, that we're getting even. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting it all the way even into a rectangle as much as I possibly can. But this dough looks beautiful compared to the other one that even I could feel a little bit, the texture was not, they weren't going to be a really super soft cinnamon roll. And I really want my cinnamon rolls to be nice and soft inside. I don't want a hard or a chewy cinnamon roll. I really want them to have a really good texture inside. The other thing that I am not going to do, that this recipe calls for it, as well as the recipe that I did that I wasn't super crazy about, it calls for melted butter inside. My grandmother always did just softened butter. She smeared it on with her hands, and that's what I'm going to do for this one. I am not going to do melted butter this time. So I'm just going to open this thing of butter. It's been sitting out, so it's pretty soft. I'm just going to put some on here, and then I'm going to take my hand and just kind of spread it around. The other recipes, they also call for like mixing your melted butter and your brown sugar and your cinnamon all together. I'm not doing that either. The way I was raised making cinnamon rolls with my grandmother, we always buttered it like this. We sprinkled our brown sugar on, we sprinkled our sugar on, or our brown sugar and then our cinnamon, and they were fantastic. So that's how I'm gonna do it. Just go back to the way that I was raised making cinnamon rolls. They come out so buttery and so beautiful on the inside. So we're just gonna get this butter smeared out here on our dough real quick, and then we're gonna move on with our brown sugar. We're gonna put on some cinnamon, and then we're gonna do our apples. Apples are not traditional in cinnamon rolls, but I made them for my husband years and years and years ago, and it's always been a favorite of his. When I make cinnamon rolls, I'll ask him, do you want apple or do you want regular cinnamon rolls? And he frequently says he would rather have the ones with the apples in them. He loves the apple in the cinnamon rolls. And I'm not cooking the apples. They're going to cook because our cinnamon rolls are going to take about 30 minutes in the oven, so they're going to get nice and done. So make sure we get butter all the way to the edge so we can use that butter to help seal our dough. This looks beautiful. This looks like a really, really nice dough too. It has a really good feel to it. Take a little bit of butter from there. All right, I am gonna wash my hands really quick. So we're just gonna put down some brown sugar. I'm gonna just kind of put it on here, and then I'm gonna spread it out with my hands so I make sure I get a good even layer of brown sugar. And then I'm gonna put my apples on, and then my cinnamon. This already looks like a regular cinnamon roll recipe to me, because like I said, I was not raised doing the melted butter and mixing your butter and sugar together and smearing that on the dough, and that was not the way I was raised making cinnamon rolls. This to me seems more like what we did growing up. All right, so just like that, we have our brown sugar. So I've got my apples, and I'm not gonna do a huge, really, really thick layer of apples. I'm just gonna do a thin layer of apples in here. You get too many apples and it's too much juice, and they take way too long to bake, and we don't wanna do that. So like I said, if I have leftover, which I'm going to, these are just gonna go into the pie filling that we're gonna make, because we're gonna peel the rest of our apples. We're gonna make a really quick apple pie filling. Once we get our apple pie filling, then we'll do our pie dough, and then we'll make our hand pies to go in the freezer. Like I said, I'm only gonna make one batch of hand pies, and then the rest of the filling, I'll just put it in the freezer. All right, that looks good to me. Now I've got my cinnamon. We're just gonna sprinkle some cinnamon in here. These are cinnamon rolls, so you wanna make sure you go pretty heavy on the cinnamon. Make sure you have a really good thick layer of cinnamon all over those apples, the brown sugar, and your dough. Just like that. Oh, these are gonna be delicious, friends. All right, let's get this dough rolled up. Now we're gonna roll it typewriter style. Move the camera down a little bit so you can see it. So we're gonna start on our long side over here, and we want to pull it towards us as we roll it. Because if you don't pull it towards you when you roll it up, you don't end up with a good tight cinnamon roll. You end up with a big pocket inside that doesn't have anything. So if you lose an apple or lose a little bit of sugar, just pull it up, pick it up, and just plop it back in the dough. Like I said, just keep going along, just like a typewriter. Just gonna pinch the seam into the dough so it holds. Just like that. Roll our dough back over, and now we're gonna get our 13 by 9 casserole dish. That's what we always baked it in, was a 13 by 9. So that's what we're gonna bake them in today. And I'm gonna butter this with our leftover butter that we have. I'm just gonna take my stick, put it in here, get a little bit of butter on this pan, and then I'm just gonna use my paper towel to just kind of smear that butter around in there. I wanna make sure we have lots of butter so they don't stick. And then my favorite way to cut these is with a bench scraper. So we're gonna cut these right, I'm gonna cut it in half. Just like that. Cut it in half again. And then I'm gonna cut it in thirds. That way we'll end up with 12 cinnamon rolls. Cut this one in half. And even though they're not going to have a separate rise time, I still want to give them plenty of room to spread out in the pan. Just like that. All right, so I have my bottom oven preheated at 350. That's what they're going to bake at. We're going to bake these until they're done, and then we're going to put a delicious glaze on top. All right, friends, here are our roasted peppers, and how delicious do those look. So we're gonna grab our foil. We're gonna put some foil over the top of these and let these steam. I want to get my foil on here nice and tight. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll put these in a bag. No, let's just get some foil. Let's put some foil over it. Let's tent it, and let's let these steam. And then in a little bit, after they've cooled, we'll get all this skin off of here, and we'll get these put into a jar with some garlic, and we're gonna have some delicious roasted red peppers for all kinds of fun things. A couple pieces out of here. Because like I said, I really want to tent this and get it nice and sealed up so that we trap all that steam inside. Our cinnamon rolls are smelling incredible right now. All right, so there's our peppers. Those are gonna sit there and steam for about a half an hour. All right, friends, here is our sourdough discard apple cinnamon rolls. You see all that beautiful brown sugar and everything there. We're gonna go ahead and dump these out onto this baking sheet right here, just so that they don't stick to this pan. So I think we have a big enough sheet pan here that we can use for them to sit on. All right, they look beautiful. I think I am going to take my spatula, scrape out a little bit of this brown sugar that's right there, because I don't want to waste all that. And there's some spots right here that can use a little bit of extra brown sugar. These smell like cinnamon rolls. The last one I made, don't get me wrong, they were good, but they just didn't have the same like texture. And I don't know that I'm actually going to put some frosting on these. Hubby does not really care for frosting. It's not his favorite thing. So I may just leave these like they are. I'll text him and ask him what he wants me to do. But I have a feeling he's going to say no frosting. Since they've got the apple in them, they're more like a sweet roll. So these are probably going to be perfect for him without the extra sugar on them. So we're just gonna let these sit here and cool, and we'll come back and give them a taste. All right, we're gonna get started on our apple pie filling. I wanna get this done before I make my dough, because my dough needs to be really cold, and I wanna be able to have everything ready just to start putting those together when the dough is ready. So I'm gonna start off with a little bit of butter. Yes, that's not traditional in pie filling, but I love the richness that it gives. So we're gonna do just a little bit of butter in this pie filling. I love to use brown sugar instead of white sugar in my pie filling. So we're gonna put in probably close to a cup of brown sugar for this many apples. We have about, I think we have about 7 apples in here. There was 5 in the one batch, 4 or 5 in the other batch, and we used a couple for our cinnamon rolls. We're gonna put in some cinnamon, because you gotta have cinnamon in apple pie filling. Just a little bit of nutmeg. My thing is gone. I'm glad I looked. We would have had way too much nutmeg in here. Just a little bit. And a tiny bit of ground cloves in our apple pie filling. Okay. We will put some flour in here in just a minute because we need to thicken our apple pie filling. But I want to get the apples started first with that butter and our cinnamon and everything. We are going to put in a little bit of lemon juice. Typically I use fresh lemon juice. This is a great Sicilian. I get it at Trader Joe's. And if I don't have fresh lemons, that's the closest thing to it. It is fantastic lemon juice. So we're gonna let these apples cook down. I want these apples all the way cooked before they go in the apple pie, because I think if the apples are still raw in those little hand pies, they take way too long to cook. And then your pie crust is overdone and it's just, yeah, it's just a mess. So we're gonna get these started cooking before we add our flour. We'll add our flour kind of towards the end, but we'll still cook it for about 5 minutes after we add the flour, because we want to make sure that we cook that raw flour taste out. So I have this down on a pretty low heat, and we're just going to let these apples sit here and simmer just a little bit. Try to get some of that. You can see that beautiful juice that's coming out already. We're going to let these sit here and cook, and we'll come back in about 2 minutes and add our flour. All right, so here's our apples. I'm going to go ahead and give this a taste really quick. I don't want to taste it when I put the flour in it because I really don't want to eat flour. So I want to give these just a little taste because I want to see how we are with sugar, with cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, all the things. Or not allspice, but cloves. That is absolutely perfect. That butter really made a difference in that juice. All right, let's put some flour in here. Got about a 1/4 cup. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to need, but I definitely want to get that juice soaked up, because if I don't, it's all going to run out of our pie shell, or like our little pies, and I don't want that. So I want to make sure that I have enough flour in here to make this a delicious filling. I don't necessarily want it totally dry, but I do want enough. See, and that right there is perfect. Still has just a little bit of moisture to it, but it's perfect. So we're gonna cook it down, turn the heat down a little bit, cook it down a little bit more, because I want to get that raw flour taste out of it, and then we're gonna make our dough. So we're gonna get started on our pie dough, or pie crust. So I've got 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour in my food processor. This is my favorite way to make pie crust. Super easy. It just goes so much smoother for me anyway to make pie crust in this. So we're just going to put our flour and our butter and our salt in here. We're going to pulse it until it is nice and crumbly, perfect pie crust consistency. And then we're going to start adding our ice cold water. Does anybody else have issues with their butter? Oh my word. It just always seems to be, the paper seems to be caught all the time. All right, let's get it cut into some little cubes. And then we're just gonna drop this right in our food processor. If you've never tried making pie crust with a food processor, I highly recommend it. If you've got a food processor, I would try it. Like I said, it is my absolute favorite way to make pie crust. I just find it so much easier to get the right consistency on the flour and everything. So this is 1 cup of butter. The recipe calls for unsalted. I never use unsalted. I always use salted butter, and I don't have a problem ever, so I'm not going to worry about it. I don't buy unsalted butter, so I'm not gonna buy something that I don't use when I only need part of it, so. So this just came right out of my fridge, so it's nice and cold. You don't want your butter soft, you don't want to handle it too much because it just makes it soft. All right, let's put the rest of this in here. Grab my salt. Since I'm using salted butter, I'm not going to use as much salt as the recipe calls for. And then we are going to just pulse this. Got it. See how it looks. A little bit more, almost there. That looks perfect. You see how beautiful that is? We've got our butter cut in there nice and small. Now we're gonna start adding in our water, and we're just gonna do it right through the feed tube. I'm just gonna watch it and see where it looks. So we're gonna start off with about 5, 3, 4, 5. Let's start right there, and let's see. We're gonna pulse it again. Okay, let's go 2 more. There's 6. There's 7. Okay, let's do 2 more. There's 9. Okay, I'm going to do 1 more. This makes it 10. You want the dough to start to come together. Just like that. That right there is exactly what we want. A little bit of flour down on my board. I'm gonna get my dough out. It's nice and crumbly, but don't worry about how it looks right now because it's going to come together. All right, so I'm gonna spread out my flour. You can see the dough comes together. It's not, doesn't stay crumbly. I love that we're cooking from scratch, making things homemade. All right, let's get this together. Get all that dough together. Like I said, we're not trying to overwork it. I don't want to heat up that butter too much. I'm going to take half of this dough. Just going to split it in half. Just like that. I'm going to set that piece aside. I want this to be more of a rectangular shape than a circle. So we're just going to start rolling this out. This is a beautiful pie crust. You know, maybe I'm just going to do them in rounds. I think I'm going to get more out of them if I do rounds than if I do rectangles. So yeah, let's just do rounds. This dough is beautiful though. So these are going to get flash frozen in the freezer. All right, I got my egg wash, my cinnamon and sugar, my cookie cutter, and we are ready to go. So I'm going to try to cut these and get as many rounds as I possibly can without rolling out my dough again. And probably what I'll end up doing is I will just combine this dough with the extra, or the other half of this dough. So I've got my apple pie filling. That is way too much for this. So we're gonna split that. Take it and just, so the brown sugar, what I love about the brown sugar for this is it makes the apple pie filling almost caramelized. And it just makes it so delicious. So we're gonna do 4. I'm gonna egg wash around the edge. This is gonna help our top dough stick. Now the top ones, we may have to roll them out just a hair bit more or stretch them to get them over our bottom dough, but no, maybe not. All right, so I'm gonna get a fork because we're gonna crimp our sides. And I'm just gonna start pulling this dough off. Just gonna go around the edge. We're gonna crimp our corner or edges. Make sure it stays nice and sealed. Grab a spatula. Use something to get up under this to pick it up. There's our little pie. I'm gonna put just a little tiny bit of an egg wash on top. I'm gonna poke it with my fork, just a vent hole, a little bit of cinnamon and sugar on top, and those are gonna go in the freezer. Here are our little apple hand pies. These are gonna go in the freezer. They're gonna freeze probably till tomorrow, and then I'll take them out and put them in a Ziploc bag, but I will put layers of parchment between them so that they don't stick together. They shouldn't, but just in case. But yeah, these are just they'll bake for about probably 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes when I want them. They'll be frozen, so they're gonna bake up perfectly. And I cannot wait to have these in my freezer ready to go. Perfect for a quick night when hubby wants something sweet. I have cookies in my freezer now. I have apple pies in my freezer. So whenever he gets a hankering for something sweet in the evenings, I can pull out a pie, throw it in the oven. It can be done in 10 minutes. I can grab a cookie out of the freezer, throw that in the oven, and it can be done in a couple of minutes. So this is perfect, friends. I am so excited to start getting all of these things in my freezer, my pantry, all the things. I can't wait. I'm super excited. So these are gonna go in the freezer. While we're doing that, let's taste a cinnamon roll. So here's our cinnamon rolls, all cooked, cooled, ready. Let's pull one of these off. Look at that, friends. Oh my word. This does not need any frosting. So good. Delicious. Those are amazing. All right, we're gonna get ready to deal with our peppers. They have steamed long enough. We're gonna get those, get the skins off of them and get those in some jars. I took a cinnamon roll up to hubby. He is doing some extra things at the church tonight on his way home. And so I had to run some stuff up to him real quick. So I grabbed a cinnamon roll and took it with him, or took it to him. And he said it was incredible. So this is definitely a recipe I think that we'll continue to use for a while. We may look for another one at some point, but this one for right now is incredible for a sourdough discard cinnamon roll. This one is amazing. So let's get our peppers done. And then I need to go get off my knee for just a little bit. I have been in the kitchen for quite a while today. I need to go sit down and get off my knee and rest up a little bit before I start dinner. We have a fun recipe for dinner tonight. So this is just a full day in the kitchen, hanging out with me, seeing what I'm doing. We're cooking some good things and some things from scratch. So we're not using anything from the store. Everything is fresh and homemade. So let's get our peppers done. So I've got 2 jars right here, and these are just gonna go in my refrigerator. I don't need to can them. I'm not planning to keep them for that long. So here's our peppers. As you can see, this is what happens to them when you roast them, and then they literally will just fall apart. So we're gonna pull this skin off of these peppers, and then I'm gonna cut the peppers into strips so that we can put them in our jars. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil on them and a couple cloves of fresh garlic, and they're just gonna go in the fridge. We're gonna use these fairly quickly over the next few weeks. They'll be fine in the refrigerator for that long. I don't see the need to can them because they're not for long-term storage. If you are going to long-term store them, then you definitely need to can them. And I would look for a recipe for canning roasted red peppers. I am not an expert canner, so I am not going to give you any advice as far as that goes, because that is not my area. So yeah, we're just gonna get all the skin off of these. We're gonna get the seeds taken out, get any of the white pith out, and these are gonna be ready for our jars. So this right here, to do these peppers, I saved out a couple peppers. So I'm gonna say these peppers right here, to do a couple of jars of roasted red peppers, cost me about $2. I'm gonna put some really good olive oil in there. I have some fresh garlic in the fridge. So I'm gonna put a couple of cloves of garlic in with the peppers. I'm not gonna do any salt because I will season my sauce or dressing or whatever I'm using the peppers for. I'll season that when I make it. All right, so there's all of that. We're gonna wad this all up and throw this in the garbage. And then we are gonna get started on getting these packed in jars. So we've got some fresh garlic that I got at the grocery store. I'm starting to buy my garlic like this. So the garlic cloves are in these individual little pouches like this. So I'm gonna put in about probably 4 or 5 garlic cloves in each jar. I think I have enough peppers here for 2 jars. Now they're not gonna stand up like how beautiful they are in a regular jar in the grocery store. That's not gonna happen. These are just gonna be in the jar, ready for us to use. I'm not worried about how packed they are either because we're not canning them. We are gonna be putting these in the refrigerator. So I wanna get a little bit of orange and a little bit of red in each one. So we got our garlic down in there, got our peppers in here. So here is the olive oil I grabbed, just an extra virgin. And that's just gonna keep them from drying out. I'm gonna use my knife to just kind of debubble. We wanna just kind of move the peppers around a little bit, make sure that olive oil is getting all the way down in there. And I don't think they have to be completely covered, but you do want enough in there. All right, there's our jars of roasted red bell peppers. Those are gonna go in my refrigerator. These are gonna be ready for sauces, salads, all kinds of things. 2 jars of roasted red bell peppers with the olive oil, I'm gonna say, and you can see how much oil I used out of this bottle. It's only right there. So I didn't use a whole lot, So I'm gonna say 2 jars of roasted red bell peppers for, I'm gonna say under $5 for 2. And you figure one of these would have been probably $5 at the store. So huge savings. These are going in my fridge. They're gonna be delicious. We're gonna make some delicious sauces and things with this stuff very soon. So this is the reality of a big cooking day in my kitchen. We're gonna get all of these dishes done real quick and then we're gonna get on with dinner. All right, friends, we're gonna get started on dinner. Hubby just called, he's on his way home. So we're gonna get these pork chops going. I'm gonna go grab my air fryer. Everything is going in the air fryer tonight. We're gonna do baked potatoes in the air fryer, asparagus, and some pork chops. When I was talking to hubby after I got back from the store, told him that I had found these pork chops for $2.96 at Fred Meyer. And he said, you know what would be good is a shake and bake type pork chop. It was one of his favorite things way back in the day when we first started dating. I would make him shake and bake and he loved it. But one, shake and bake's gotten super expensive. And number 2, it is full of stuff that I don't want. So it was kind of funny that he mentioned that because I was watching Mandy in the Making this morning. And she did some air fryer pork chops with this recipe. And I said, funny that you mentioned shake and bake because Mandy said this recipe was very, very close to a shake and bake. So we're gonna do it. I am going to do my own thing with the seasonings. You can follow the recipe. I don't usually follow a recipe. I'm just gonna eyeball the ingredients. Super easy. We're gonna get this done. We're gonna get some olive oil on our pork chops. Let them sit for a few minutes with the seasonings. We're gonna get our baked potatoes in the air fryer. Let them start cooking and super easy dinner tonight, friends. So let's get it done. Our recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of brown sugar and 2 tablespoons of paprika. I do not have any, because I'm doubling the recipe. The recipe is for 2 pork chops. I have 5. And so I'm gonna do double the recipe for this. So there's our paprika. We need a little bit of salt. Need a little bit of garlic powder. Like I said, I'm kind of eyeballing this, but not really. We need a little bit of dry mustard. I'm using the Coleman's dry mustard. It's one of my favorites. So we need about a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half. We also need some black pepper and I need some onion powder. I do not have any onion powder in my house. So I have some dehydrated onion and I'm gonna take the dehydrated onion and I'm gonna put it through my mortar and pestle and I'm gonna just crush it up. And that's gonna give me the same thing as onion powder. So we're gonna put in a couple of teaspoons. And then we're just gonna grind this up. One thing I love about a mortar and pestle, if you don't have something, you can typically make it pretty easy. So we're gonna just get this minced onion kind of ground up a little bit. That's good. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so I'm gonna use my teaspoon and just kind of mix all this up together, get all of our ingredients mixed up. I'm gonna lay my pork chops out here on my cutting board. We're going to put some olive oil on them. And then I'm gonna let these sit for a few minutes while we get our baked potatoes going in our air fryer because I think the moisture from the olive oil and the pork itself will help kind of make this a little bit tacky, which is gonna make it really delicious. All right, so here's our pork chops. I thought these looked beautiful. They had a couple of days still on them before they expired. But it was the only package and I said, yes, please. We haven't had pork chops in a little while. Hubby was excited because he does love a good pork chop recipe. If I can get the plastic off. All right, so here's our pork chops. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil on these. All right, I'm gonna use my seasoning. We want a good amount of the seasoning on here. I may have too much. I know Mandy doubled hers and she only had 3 pork chops, so I probably have too much, but that's okay. If we have too much, I'm not gonna worry about it. I will just put it in a little jar or a little Ziploc container or something and save it for another recipe. A little bit more on this one. All right, so we're gonna get this on one side and then we're gonna flip it over and do the other side. And I'm cooking all 5 of these because I will end up using part of them for hubby's lunch the rest of this week. He only has 2 more days of work. He has jury duty on Friday, so he is off from work on Friday so he can serve on jury duty. All right, let's get some seasoning on this side. Our asparagus won't take but just a minute or 2 because I don't like it overcooked, as you guys know. It's not my favorite. Baked potatoes will take about 20 minutes probably in the air fryer. Okay, I think that looks good. We're just gonna let these hang out now, let that seasoning get nice and tacky, and we'll get our potatoes in the air fryer. And here's our potatoes. My potatoes are too big to go in the air fryer whole, so I just cut them in half. Got them nice and brown, nice and toasty. We're gonna go and put our pork chops in the air fryer now. Hubby took a look at these when he got home and was super excited. All right, as soon as I move my pot holder out of the way, I'll move that pork chop. Once I get our pork chops pretty much done or pretty close to it, I'll go ahead and put my asparagus in. We'll get that cooked. And this is going to be delicious. All right, friends, this all smells delicious. Cannot wait to eat this.
Imagine checking your own heart with medical precision from anywhere.
So here's our potatoes and our asparagus. Get a couple of these potatoes on here for hubby. Some asparagus. Just like that. And put his butter and stuff on his potatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and grated up a little bit of cheese. And I'm just gonna kind of split these this way. Put a little bit of butter on them. All right, I went ahead and grated up just a little bit of cheddar. So we're gonna put just a little bit of cheese on them. I had some bacon left over from this weekend. So I'm gonna take just a little bit of bacon, put just a little bit on here. I'm telling you, friends, these pork chops look amazing. I don't know where Mandy found this recipe, but these look so good. Just a tiny bit of sour cream. A little bit of freeze-dried chives. All right, let's get these pork chops out. Look at those. They look incredible. All right, there is our pork chops, potatoes, and asparagus. Friends, thank you guys so much for joining me today as we did a bunch of fun projects in the kitchen, trying to get into really making things from scratch, really paying attention to what's in our food, ingredients. Everything that we made right here is natural, good for you. There's no chemicals, no anything in it. And I'm excited. So we still have some more recipes to do with you, but this is going to be the end of today's video. Tomorrow you guys want to come back for the next one because I've got several things that I didn't get to today that I want to bring you guys along with me on. So many fun things to do with the rest of those peppers we have sitting back there we need to get done. The bell peppers we did earlier are now in the refrigerator and ready for me to use for whatever recipe I choose to. So friends, your time is valuable, and I know that. It means so much to me that you take that time out of your day to come and hang out with me, see what I'm doing in my kitchen, come cook with me, hang out with me. I love the community that we've gotten to build together, and I hope you guys will come back again. If you are new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button up there. I would love to have you a part of our YouTube family. Hit that notification bell down there so you're notified when we do upload. And friends, we'll talk to you guys in the comments. Have a great day, and God bless.